A very good morning to my dear students. Today we are starting a new chapter, chapter 1, some aspects of the French Revolution. So in this chapter we will be discussing about the French Revolution in detail. But before I start, let me discuss about the introduction of the French Revolution. Okay, so the French Revolution of 1789 was the most important event in the history of Europe during the 18th century. It broke out during the reign of the Bourbon king Louis XVI. He ruled France according to his own will, and he believed in the absolute power of the king. The revolution was not just directed against absolute monarchy, but it was also a protest against social injustice and economic exploitation. Now, the period prior to the revolution in France came to be known as the Ancient Regime. So, the term Ancient Regime is used to describe the conservative society and institutions of France before the outbreak of the French Revolution of 1789. Before the revolution, France was ruled by autocrats of the Bourbon dynasty. The rights of the king were absolute. He was not answerable to anyone. He was not accountable to the nobility, the church, or any institution of the state. All these were the features of the ancient regime. The French Revolution marked the end of the ancient regime. Now, an important topic will be discussed right now, that is the analysis of the taxation system. Before the outbreak of the French Revolution, French society was divided into two classes. One is the privileged one and another is the non-privileged one. The privileged class or the wealthier section of the society paid no tax to the government. On the other hand, the unprivileged class had to bear the entire burden of taxation. There were two kinds of taxes, indirect taxes and the direct taxes. Vingtimise or income tax, then gabella or salt tax, capitation or production tax were also released from the peasants. Okay, means the peasants they only were responsible to paid the taxes to the government. Okay, means only 4% of the total revenue collected by the government was paid by the privileged class and 96% was paid by the unprivileged class. Okay, the peasants, they had to work for the reconstruction of roads without any payment. This was known as corvée. Again, they had to pay toll tax for using the same roads, and thus the French peasantry, which then constituted about 80% of the total population, had to deposit the lion's share of their income to the king's treasury as direct or indirect tax. After paying 80% of their income in taxation, the peasants hardly had any money to meet the basic necessities of life.